So 2 weeks ago I had this idea of making a game featuring Siren Head. So I started making the 3D model, I made some animations, programming, interfaces, bought some 3D models and music, and stitched everything together. Here's how it went down. Hey there friends, I'm Leo, and before we actually get into it, I must recommend that you check out Trevor Henderson. He's the guy that created not only Siren Head, but a lot of other horror creatures, and his work is very interesting and very inspiring to me. In the beginning, I was just itching to make a game in a forest using the art style from my other horror game, and then it came naturally to me that I wanted to make a game about Siren Head. As I started spitballing some ideas back and forth, I felt like I could do something similar to that other game about Siren Head that was made on a game jam. On that game, you basically are out of the car and then you find a body and then you need to go back to the car or you can die. And then there's basically two endings. But then I started wanting to have a section inside of the car, and then maybe you could, from the car you could go to a house, and then from the house you actually go into the woods. But then the game started getting too big for me to handle alone, with new ideas that I was implementing, and I had to constrain myself by setting a deadline. I need to finish this game in 2 weeks and publish it on Saturday. The first thing that I started making was just a simple plane with some trees and then maybe flashlight, character movement. That was basically the groundwork that I would build upon. I then went to make the actual Siren Head model, and here's a little time lapse of what I did. I used ZBrush to make the sculpt and then Blender to do the retopology and then the animations. I didn't actually have to paint the model because of the art style, and I really feel like I want to just to see what it would look like. I then went over to make the initial animations and all of that stuff with the car. I then went ahead to make the general layout and the terrain and the trees, and I was kind of scared that the map was going to be a little bit too big because I didn't have any notion of scale, but I used some collisions and some invisible walls that helped me box in the player whenever I needed him. Before actually texturing the map, I went to make the AI for the enemy, and I am very happy with it because this was the first time that I 100% made an AI, and I'm very proud of it because it works. Of course it has a lot of bugs, and a lot of bugs that I have not even seen yet. But I'm very happy that it actually is able to work well enough so that you can have a good experience, I think. I then went over to make the sounds in the game, and honestly that's where my focus was mostly at, because I think that in order for you to give good immersion, which is incredibly important in a horror game, you need good sound, you need good ambientation, you need a good ambience, right? So then I bought some horror music and I started getting worked on a system that works like this. Basically I made this invisible manager object that is constantly being updated on the player's position and then some landmark positions. And then let's say that the player is at objective 0, he's at the start of the game. This object is going to calculate your position versus the position of the house, which is objective 1. And as you go towards the house, it is going to increase the volume gradually. And then as soon as you reach the house, it's going to keep that volume at 1, but then when you leave the house, it will also be continued at 1, but then it will gradually fade this noise and add on to another one that is a little bit more intense. So then you can have gradual tension rising up on the start of the game. My whole idea here with the story was that it starts slow, but then it builds up kind of slowly until it reaches the climax, which is when you need to run away, right? So in order to have this slow build up, I made this little object that will always gradually increase the volume of the sounds. Now those were the things that I did in terms of music and ambientation, but then there's also all of the sound effects that I stitched together in cinematics, or when you are walking, for example, when you pick the flashlight. And then there's the whole thing with the car cinematic. For example, do you know that the train tracks that you see right at the start of the game, there is a sound that plays of the car going over the train tracks? That sound was something that I sampled from another recording and I stitched together to this one. So in the end, it becomes this composition of all of those different things that make a game. And that, honestly, that's what is so cool about video games. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit here, but yeah, it's a full composition of different things that combine together into something really cool. Now enough about sound, and let's talk a little bit of the mechanics in the game. In Siren Head Woods, you can walk, run, use your flashlight, use your gun. Yes, you can use a gun. You can also jump, and that's it. You can show your objective as well. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would you need to use a gun on a game about Siren Head? And the reason for that is that I read on the wiki that Siren Heads are incredibly agile. Now how do you run away from something that big and that fast? You don't. So that's why you have a gun. So you can stun the Siren Head and you can run away, turn off your flashlight and hide. So that is the idea here with the gun. And to not make it too easy on the player, if you start reloading your gun, it will take a long time for it to fully reload. And that kind of makes this thing where you need to play by the game's rules. You need to turn off your flashlight, and if you don't, you will die. The last thing I went to do was the menus, the cinematics, finishing up some bugs, and there were some bugs that drove me insane. Now I want to thank my friend Enrique Shibata. He really helped me out finding all of the bugs, and he found some bugs that I wasn't even aware of. Like for example, one of them had you falling through a void every time you reloaded from the checkpoint. And that was happening because the map was being generated after the player. So then the player would be generated, he would fall through the map, and then the map would be generated. So then you would be stuck on an endless void. And every time you wanted to reload the checkpoint, this glitch would persist. And it was like a Russian roulette every time you closed and opened the game again. Now this will be it for the behind the scenes video. I hope you liked it. If you want to download the game, there's going to be links down in the description or the comments. But if you also want to just check out a video to see what the game is all about, I will also be uploading a walkthrough on my channel that will also be linked down in the description. If you happen to find any more bugs or weird stuff happening, or you just want to leave me some feedback, you can email me at this address. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Leo, signing off. Oh, que bonitinho. Oh. Oh, and here's my dog. He wanted to come say hi. Say hi. Okay, now go away.